Well, hello all, and welcome to Trade Desmo. It's been a while, missed you guys. Been kind of busy, with the holidays coming on, and I wanted to take some time out to show you this cute little catch-all trinket tray that I've discovered that I decided to make. This is what it looks like. I'm a big fan of these thinker statues, so I decided this is going to comprise of 3 different molds. One is the trinket mold, one is the little catch-all little tray, and then you have the thinker statue. I combined all 3 of these into one piece. This is rose gold glitter. I think it turned out really pretty cute. You can put little things in there, keys, whatever you use, or it could just even be a piece of beautiful artwork. So basically, I'm going to show you how I come up and how I did this glitter in here. It's been a while since I worked with resin, so of course you make sure you have your PPE, your gloves. If it takes you to get one of those face masks, I personally don't wear them. But you can, if you decide to work with resin, depending on how it affects you, I highly recommend that you get that as well. So whatever you need to work with resin. But this is a simple, easy process, quick, and let's get started. So first off, the supplies you need is you're going to use your glitter. I haven't yet decided what color I'm going to do. I'm thinking of a purple or a blue. It depends on what's closest to me at the time. The reason we're going to use is this Illuminite Amazing Clear Cast Epoxy. I recommend using this or a deep pour epoxy. Definitely not the quick coat epoxy, which is what I usually use to cover if I make cups or anything small. If you read the package, there's certain specs. I don't see it on here. Oh, yes it is. So you read the specs, and depending on how deep your mold is, would be this mold here with the different parts to it kind of falls into the 1.5. If it pours 1.5 or to 2 inches deep, it falls into the deep pour. This right here is the clear cast, and really you're supposed to use that between 1/8 inch and 3/8 inch. So technically this falls into the clear, or not the clear cast, the deep pour epoxy, because of the thickness of the mold. This is kind of thin right here. This isn't bad at all, the third piece. But we're still going to use the clear cast because you see it turned out lovely. So we're going to use this one. And to make all 3 molds, you're going to use approximately 300 milliliters of the combined epoxy. And I'll show you that as I'm going through the video. But what I do, I use these silicone cups, and there's 100 milliliters a piece. So then I use 3 of these. This one I've used quite a bit. It's the same cup, but you can see it's different color. I washed it out. You can use these as long as you can without, until they tear. But this is the 2. That's the only reason why this is yellow, because it's the one I use all the time. These are brand new. But anyway, they're 100 milliliters a piece, and it takes that much epoxy, combined epoxy, to do this entire mold, this entire piece. So I'll show you that. Of course, you're going to need some stir sticks. The mold itself, the 3 different pieces. That's the trinket tray mold. Here's the little square shape, also with the mold, and I'll have a link to everything like I usually do. It's the square shape mold you can get. It comes with a heart shape, which is also cute. I didn't want to do that though. I decided to use the square. And here's the thinker statue mold for this particular one, but the one that I ordered off Amazon has 3 different statues with it. And I would show you, but I don't feel like getting up to get it. But it's 3, it's not all the same thinker statue. So you'll have your choice to make different ones. And when I get a collection of these, because I want to offer these in the shop, I think it's a good piece, then you'll see the 3 different ones if I choose to use the mold. But when you put these all together, they're going to fit together on one thing. So that's what we're going to work with. That's what you need, the supplies you need. And let's get started on filling the cups. Actually, I forgot one more thing that you're going to need is some clear regular craft glue. That's going to help the glitter like be even in your mixture. So that's what you're going to use. It's like 2 drops. That's all you need. So this big one I got right here isn't necessary. You don't have to have it that big. You can get a little small thing of craft glue, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Elmer's. It doesn't matter as long as it's the clear kind. And you're only going to use 2 little drops, but again, you'll see that when I get to that part. Now here we have the 100 milliliter cups, silicone cups, and we're going to fill 50 milliliters of the part A, 50 milliliters of the part B. So there's our part B. I pulled that out the box first. And then there's the part A. And you want to read the directions on the back. So we're going to mix the part A first. And again, you're only going up to 50 milliliters for the first pour. So we're filling that up halfway. And since we're going to use 3 of these cups, I'm just going to do that same process, 50 milliliters in all 3 cups of the part A epoxy. We're just going to mix everything at the same time. All 3 cups, 50 milliliters. I'm just checking it. I had too much in one of the cups. So now they're all even. So now here we go to the part B, and you'll notice that some of that is for some reason part B turns a yellowish color sometimes. If you had the epoxy for a long time, it still works. So I use it, especially when I'm going to mix it with a color. So in this case, we're going to use the glitter. So I'm going to still use the epoxy. Now, if I was pouring a mold that was clear, I probably wouldn't use it because it'd have a yellow tint to it. So we're going to take our stir stick, and I'm stirring as fast on here, but I'm really going slow. I just sped the video up. But you just want to make sure, and you're going to be able to tell because as you're stirring the epoxy, it's going to clear up. Right now it's cloudy. So this now is the part where that's the consistency of just epoxy, the A part and B part together. Now when we add the glue and the glitter, the consistency is going to change. So for this cup, I just haphazardly poured some glitter in there. I didn't measure it or anything. And I'm stirring it around. And as you see, when you first stir it, you have to push the glitter down into the epoxy or else it's going to stay to the top. So like you just saw, it was to the top and then we poured it. If you don't add the glue, the clear glue to it, when your mold is setting, it's going to still rise to the top. So this glue helps distribute the glitter. And you're going to use 1 to 2 drops of the glue. And it changes the consistency of the epoxy. I didn't really show it good here. I'm going to let you see this second cup. And I'm mixing up the epoxy, just the epoxy. There's my 2 drops. 1 to do also. But when you stir it, it makes it more gummy when you add the glue to it. And again, I'm just adding the glitter. And I'm going to push it down in there in my epoxy glitter glue mixture to make sure that it's evenly distributed in the cups. And again, I'm pulling the stick out so you can see the different consistency, but when you're doing it yourself, you'll definitely be able to tell after you add the glue to it. And this is a 3rd cup, showing you consistency again, difference. That's just the epoxy. When I add the 2 drops of glue, mix it slower than what I'm doing. I sped it up, but that's why. And then I'm going to show you the different consistency. It makes it more gummier when you add the glue, which is going to help your glitter. Trust me on that. And then I'm just adding some glitter. Stirring it, pushing it down, making sure it's distribute all throughout the glue and the epoxy. And you're going to do the same process for all 3 of your cups. So now we're ready to pour the molds. Now you're going to see why I said it's going to take 300 milliliters total to do this whole project. And in real life, I'm pouring this slower. Of course, this is sped up again. But you want to take your time with this because you want to make sure that all the epoxy goes throughout the mold and you don't have air bubbles. So you see, 1 100 milliliter cup did not fill the first mold completely. Because you want to make sure when you're pouring these molds, you get it as close to the top without spilling over. So see, I have room left in this mold, and I'm just using my stir stick to try to pop any bubbles that I might see and make sure that the glue, glitter, epoxy goes all the way to the edges. So I'm going to take my 2nd cup and fill it up a little bit more, because I want it to go to the top. Take your time. Now it's time to pour the thinker statue. Again, this is slower than it looks on here, because you want to make sure, because it has a foot on the statue, and you want to make sure that you get the epoxy in that little crevice on the foot, or else you'll have half a foot. So now we're done with our 2nd 100 milliliter cup, and you see that didn't fill that mold up. You know, you're scraping it out because you want to get as much out as you can. So we're going to borrow from our final 100 milliliter cup to complete this mold. Stir it up a little bit. And we're going to slowly pour and fill this one up to the top. So you see we have, if you look at the cup, we have about, I'd say about 75%, a little over half left to finish the completed piece. The little Trinket tray doesn't take as much anyway, so we're slowly going to pour that in. Even coverage. I'm going to set it down because I was just holding it up so you can see. And I'm just pushing the sides in because I want to make sure it goes all to the center. And see, from here we have this much left over. So no worries, we're just going to take and fill in more if you have any room, which you will, because we're still not completely to the top. And we're just going to use the remaining part to fill it in on all 3 molds. So now we have used all of our epoxy without bubbling over. So now we're ready to set it aside for 24 hours and let it set. Also, I highly recommend you get one of these handheld heat guns. I'm using this to pop any bubbles that's on the surface. And you don't want to get it close to it, so I'm holding it back some. But I don't see it on this camera angle, but it's a whole bunch of bubbles that's popping in there. It adds a nice finishing touch to make sure, or to try to ensure, you never can really tell 100% with epoxy. But you're eliminating any bubbles that may or may come up. Okay, here we are approximately 24 hours later. It's time for the demolding of our pieces. Let's start with the tray. Okay. Pretty smooth. Got a couple little dents in here where the bubbles popped or whatever, but it's not enough to be a game changer. And you see how that glue evenly distributed the glitter? That's a win. Let's try a little tray. That turned out cute. The thinker. Very happy with it. That is so cute. So now the last step that we're going to do, make sure I didn't do anything to it. Nope, it's cute. Is we're going to place it on our tray. In its respective spots. Put that about halfway here. And I put the Thinker Girl kitty character. See, that's the same thing we did with this, or I did with this one. And the angle, and the trays right there in the corner. So the glue I use is E6000. I know if you usually watch my videos, you're probably surprised because I usually use gem tack for everything, but I want this to make sure, I wanted to do this E6000, so one thing I'm going to do is apply glue to the bottom and set it in place. I need this time for me to open up a new bottle. And it doesn't take a lot. Nice dab. Just go apply it to the bottom. That's all I did. And I wanted to sit in the corner. Same thing with this. Yeah, this tube about had it. Just stick it on there, press it down. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. Just gonna let that dry. Then you have your Trinket tray. So to recap, a total of 300 milliliters, using 3 of the 100 milliliter resin cups. Mix approximately 2 drips of glue in each cup. And 1 or 2, I use 2 for each one. Stir your glitter up, pour it in your mold, completely cured in 24 hours. E6000, the pieces down. Wait for it to completely dry, and you're finished. Cute little stocking stuffers. So, as usual, like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you watching, and see you next project.